is up, people? Welcome back to FMall. It is me. Who else would it be? Your host, Anwar. So, if this is your first time, FMall is, on one hand, a nod to the James Baldwin quote that you saw on the intro. On the other hand, it is my pledge to not keep you longer than 15 minutes. So, talk about some stuff happening in the world, talk about some stuff happening in DC, talk about stuff happening here in Nevada where I live, and hopefully we're all a little smarter and on our way in 15 minutes or less. So, that stated, let's get to it, shall we? I'm going to start off this time with a story. Now, most of you know that I am a WNBA fan, those of you who have followed me for a little while. And I'm not going to talk about it super duper long, but I got to share this story because the shit's funny to me, at least. So a couple weeks ago, y'all, the Indiana Fever was in town to play the Aces. And all in all, it was a good game. Aces pulled away. We ended up winning. I was happy about that, of course. I almost lost my voice, but that's typical for me at an Aces game. But I live close enough to the arena for it to be no more than like a 20-minute walk home. So usually I will walk home after the games. So I'm walking home and I come to a crosswalk, and there's a dude at the stoplight waiting to cross in the other direction. And so I see him, I nod, and a couple seconds later he goes, "Oh yeah." And I look and I'm like, "What?" And I look behind me and there are some Indiana Fever fans behind me headed toward the same intersection. And so I just ignore it. And he goes, "Yeah, they were in town to play the Aces today." I said, "Yeah, I know. I just came from the game." And he sees my rally towel. He goes, "Oh, are you a Caitlin fan too?" I said, "No, I'm an Aces fan." He says, "Well, you have to admit that Caitlin Clark is closer to being Jordan than A'ja Wilson." And I just looked at this man with his unwashed face and unbrushed tongue and thought,
what the hell are you talking about?
For starters, A'ja Wilson is not a guard, y'all. Like, that's the most ridiculous comparison. It really is. But let's talk about what A'ja Wilson has in common with Michael Jordan that Caitlin Clark does not. Championships. I'm not even talking about on a professional level. I'm talking about in college. Yes, Michael Jordan and A'ja Wilson have championships at the pro level, but they both have national championships at the college level, and Caitlin Clark does not. Again, Caitlin Clark is a great player, and she will develop into an all-time great given time. But you can be a fan of hers without trying to shit on other players, especially not A'ja Wilson, who is arguably the best player on the planet right now. Like, bro, what are you talking about? Moral of the story: wash your face, brush your tongue, watch your goddamn mouth. Aces in 5. Bitch. I found out not too long ago that Hulk Hogan passed away. And there's a time when that would have made me extremely sad. But at this big old age of mine, all I can think about is the Reaper saying,
"Hulk Hogan, we coming for you, nigga." I should.
Don't judge me, y'all. Oh, I need to go back to church. Maybe I'll start Christian rapping again. Let's pivot, y'all. Let's pivot and talk about some potentially serious stuff now. Of course, we know by now that Republicans in the House and the Senate have managed to force that big bag of shit bill to Donald Trump's desk, where it has now been signed into law. We know it's not beautiful. It is bigly bad. So I'm not going to dignify it by calling it by what they name it. I know I've talked about it a whole lot, and the truth is I'm going to be talking about it for a while because it is a big deal, y'all. This week, congressional Republicans are on a tour of sorts, like a victory lap, if you will, after passing the shit as if they accomplished something groundbreaking for the American people. Spoiler alert, y'all, they didn't. This is not an accomplishment or a victory for the American people at all. It is a bigger bag for billionaires. It's a bunch of bullshit. That's it. Jasmine Crockett should call me. But since we're here, let's talk about how fucked up it's going to be for the people here in Nevada. Because thanks to the cuts in Medicaid funding, clinics across the state are going to be forced to close. So healthcare is going to be that much more difficult to access, even for people who can afford it. Thanks to these Medicaid cuts, over 100,000 Nevadans are at risk of losing their health care. And when they lose their health care, prices are going to go up for everyone. It's not a win. Thanks to the education cuts, our children and teachers are looking at larger class sizes. Some of our teachers are looking at not having jobs. The teachers that will keep their jobs are going to be burdened even more. And in rural areas, and when it comes to special education, those two subsets are now on the chopping block as well. That's what we're looking at, y'all. I know a lot of you get excited about no tax on tips, but the reality is this batshit bill doesn't actually guarantee any relief from taxes on tips, y'all. And there's a cap placed on how much of your tipped income can be protected from taxes. But then again, that shouldn't be a surprise, y'all, because during Trump's first term, he tried to push legislation through that would let employers take tips from their workers. How soon we forget. Then when it comes to Nevada's public lands, the GOP has opted to allow not just development, but overdevelopment wherever they can stack shit on top of shit. And as far as they're concerned, to hell with conservation. Grand old party my ass. More like grimy Oss party. That's OSS, grimy Oss party. It sounds a little aristocratic, but they still some bitches. I said that. But here in Nevada, in light of all this, our governor, Jackass Joe, he can't fall over his feet quickly enough running to bend the knee to Donald Trump. Like I said last episode, this dude's belly is full. He is bursting at the seams, full of slop off of the Trump trough. And he has shown time and time again that he does not care about the American people. Or the people of Nevada, more specifically. He cares about the billionaires. He cares about the businesses. He cares about the bonuses he gets under the table. I didn't think about how that sounded before I said it, but take it however the fuck you want. Because by now y'all already know how I feel about the guy.
Fuck this guy!
If we can pivot for a second. Because Albert Einstein once said, if you can't explain something simply, you don't understand it well enough. The reason I'm saying that is I go to a lot of events, y'all. And I listen to a lot of people talk about how the narrative on the left needs to be stronger or more comprehensive, or a list of other words and phrases that seem more focused on how smart we need people to think we are than on actually creating sustainable change. Now, I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Black Dynamite. If you haven't, you should. It is a great waste of your time. But there's a point where there's a political rally and A woman is talking to the neighborhood and she's saying all this powerful stuff and everyone's just looking at her. And the crooked congressman gets up and says a couple lines that rhyme, says some dopey stuff, and everyone is cheering. Like Dynamite says, most people don't know what the hell either of y'all is saying, but at least they can put his to a beat. Here's the reality, y'all. People don't care how smart we are. We spend so much time calling the other side stupid and talking about how dumb they are. And the reality is that's not doing us any favors. I'm not saying that they're not stupid. But calling them stupid and calling them uneducated doesn't do us any favors because we call them stupid and uneducated. He says, I love the uneducated and the poorly educated. He calls them stupid just like we do. But at least he does it with a smile and open arms. There's another guy, TJ Morrow. I believe he goes by TJ Talks on TikTok. You should follow him if you're not. But he said,
And while liberals are writing think pieces and hosting panel talks, Trump and people like him are giving stupid people simple villains and easy answers.
Lyndon Johnson, of whom I am not a fan, but he said if you can convince the lowest white man that he's better than the best colored man, he won't notice you're picking his pocket. He said, hell, give him someone to look down on and he'll empty his pockets for you. I want you to think about something. How many people do you know that have actually been able to tell you what Make America Great Again even means? Most of them can't tell you what it means. But they've got the hats, even though they're made in China. They've got the t-shirts. They bought those goofy ass gold shoes. They bought that blasphemous ass Bible. Because they were given simple villains and easy answers. Your problems exist because someone's on welfare. Or your problems exist because two men got married. Or your problems exist because your next door neighbor speaks a language that isn't English. Or your problems exist because a 17-year-old sexual assault victim wants to terminate an unsustainable pregnancy. And then after they force her to have that baby, now your problems exist because that lazy broad wants to get on welfare. Now we all know that's bullshit. But this is messaging that is winning, and it makes my point. Y'all, people don't care how smart we need them to think we are. They care about whether or not they can turn their lights on or keep their lights on. They care about whether or not they can put food on the table. They care about whether or not they can afford their next doctor's visit. And when those needs are not met, they care about who they can blame. So I want you over this next week to just take a moment to think. Think about how you're talking to people you disagree with. Think about how you're talking to people who don't know any better. I'm not saying you got to coddle them. But telling them that they're stupid is only causing them to run to the other guy who's telling them that they're stupid, but with open hands. So think about that. It's about time for me to get out of here. So I want to remind all of you, be sure to follow my people at Nevada Megaphone. As always, the link is down in the description. Till next time, remember, wash your face, brush your tongue, watch your goddamn mouth. I'm Anwar. See you next time.